Okay, so on this file, these are just screenshots from the notes. So this was a screenshot from the 8-1 notes. This was the law of sines. And then on my next slide here, the law of sines written down. It's pretty obvious for this one. Remember, you take the side and you put it over sine of the angle that's across from that side, and then the side, and then the angle across from it. And again, remember, you're only working with 2 at a time because these are proportions. I have the law of cosines, and this was a screenshot from the 8-2 notes. I would have the law of cosines written down. Remember, the beginning and the end need to match. Remember, when you're doing this, be very careful, because if you're looking for, say, cosine of A, you can't do this continuous in your calculator. If you're looking for just, say, a side length, then you could do it continuous in your calculator. Again, you really need to be comfortable with working with your calculator. Remember, when you're doing law of cosines, don't hit the sine button. That's a common mistake that students are going to make. And this last one, this basically describes the different scenarios that you're going to be given. Just give me a minute here. Okay. Can you still see the iPad?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So these are the different scenarios you're going to be given. So you're either going to be given angle, angle, side, or side, angle, angle, or angle, side, angle, or side, angle, or ASS, and then the SSS and the SAS. So if you notice over here, let me go through this. So here, when you have either SAA, or even, you could even say it as AAS or ASA, for these, what you're going to do is you're going to find the third angle first by adding the 2 that you have and subtracting from 180. And then you're going to find the remaining sides by using law of sines. The order doesn't matter on which side you find first. Then the next scenario that you're going to have, so these are actually the 3 cases. So we can either have, again, angle, angle, side, or if you do it backwards, side, angle, angle, or ASA. What you're going to do first is find the missing angle first by adding the 2 angles that they give you and subtracting from 180, and then find the remaining 2 sides. We're going to use law of sines. Now, this one right here, this SSA or ASS, this is the one that's the ambiguous case. When you're given this scenario, this is the only time you need to check to see if you have 0 triangles, 1 triangle, or 2 triangles. Now, when it ends up being 0 triangles, as soon as you try to find that first angle, you're going to get an error on your calculator. And then you know that there's no triangle that could be formed. Once you start doing the process of first finding, you're trying to find your first missing angle, it'll work if there's 1 triangle. And then you would proceed to find the other missing side and the other missing angle. However, once you find the first missing angle, that's when you can either finish the problem and find the other side, or double check to see if you're going to have to do the problem again for a second triangle. So again, this is the only scenario, either ASS or SSA, when you have to do the check for the second triangle. Then these last 2 with the pink star, that's going to be where you're going to use law of cosines first, when you're given all 3 sides or when you're given two sides and the included angle. So when that scenario occurs, make sure you're reading over here the suggested procedure. So over here, when it's side angle side, you're gonna first find the missing side of the angle that's given. So whatever side is across from the angle that's given to you in the problem, that's what you find first. So you're gonna find the third missing side first using law of cosines. Then after that, your next step, you must find the smaller of the two remaining angles using law of sines. And then you'll find the third using that triangle sum. Add the two that you have and subtract. Now, when it's side, side, side that's given, this one you find the largest angle first. And then from there, you can find the either remaining angle, it doesn't matter the order here, and then you would use your triangle sum. So when it's side angle side, you're gonna find the missing third side first, and then you'll find the smaller of the two angles second. But when it's side, 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 you have to find the biggest angle first using law of cosines. So this was, again, a screenshot that was in the notes from 8.2. You might want to use it. The quiz on Wednesday, your quiz is a week from today. So that quiz is going to be 6 questions long. It's going to be multiple choice. And again, you're probably going to have, at least all the different scenarios appear. This time we're pulling it from a bank of even more questions. So the chances of you getting the same question in the same order as someone else is going to be very slim. So my advice to you is practice doing problems. 6 questions, you need to work rapidly through it. We're going to do it on the Zoom call just like we did before. You must show me the work. Okay, the quiz is multiple choice, but if you do not have the setup for each one of the proportions or each one of the use of the law of cosines, you're not going to get credit for the question. So if you go now, here are the scenarios. So again, this is the suggested procedure for solving. So again, for case 1, you're going to find the third angle that's across from the side that's given. Actually, the third angle by adding the 2 angles that are given to you and subtracting from 180. And then to find the 2 remaining sides that are missing, you use law of sines. Here, you're going to go ahead and find the angle using law of sines across from whatever one is not given across. Does that make sense? Maybe I can draw you some scenarios. Any questions? Steps on this. Everybody good on that? Remember when you're doing side, 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 this one, remember to find the biggest angle first. And when you're doing side angle side, find the third side first, but then when you go to look for the angles that are missing, find the smaller one first. So the order of those is going to make a difference. And again, the only time you need to check for a second triangle is when it's the ASS or the SSA. Where I have the quiz review worked out. So for example, number 1, all I did here was list all the answers. And this is what you're going to do on the quiz. It's multiple choice. However, what you're going to upload to an assignment just like before is to go in and out of Notability review. All right, so this is posted. You saw it. And again, when you're taking the quiz, I need to see all of this work on your Scratch. Okay, whether you choose to do it on Notability or if you're going to do it on a piece of paper, I need to see all the work. No work, even if you get the multiple choice part of it right, no work, no credit. Okay,
So,
now, yes.
sorry. Oh, we have to show the sign -1 too?
No, if you wanted to just, instead of this step, if you wanted to go right to this step, that's fine. But I would definitely, you need to show me this setup. And, you know, as much as you can give me, the better. I would definitely, you know, show all of this and how, you don't have to show me this step, but definitely show me how you plugged it in.
Okay.
So pretty much what I've got on here is what I want to see on your scratch paper. Now, what I was showing, I believe my I period yesterday, I was showing them how they could manipulate the formula ahead of time. I don't know if that would be helpful to you when you're doing law of cosines. So for example, I did in the review here. Let me find number 4. Understand the, let's say we have this formula, c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times cosine c. Let's say I wanted to, without any numbers, solve for cosine c. So if you want to do this ahead of time and rearrange it and just have cosine c equal something, here's what you could do ahead of time for all 3 formulas. You could actually say, okay, I'm going to subtract a squared, and I get c squared minus a squared equals b squared minus 2ab cosine c. Subtract b squared. What I'm trying to do is work on getting this by itself. So I'm slowly moving everything away from it. So c squared minus a squared minus b squared equals negative 2ab cosine c. Then divide by negative 2ab. That's canceled. So now I have c squared minus a squared minus b squared over negative 2 times a times b. If you're okay with leaving it like that, you can. And then you could just go ahead and do the problem like this, plug in c, a, b, and then do the inverse function. Now, another thing you could do is divide all of these terms by negative 1, and then actually make this a squared plus b squared minus c squared over 2ab. So like, for example, on number 4, now I could use this manipulated thing instead of plugging it into this and then working all backwards. So for example, if I just wanted to do this, and if I use the numbers in number 4, I would be doing 189 squared plus 214 squared minus 325 squared over 2 times 189 times 214. And then what I can do, that'll give me what cosine c equals. And now cosine c is equal to, and then the top becomes negative 24108 over 80892. So really what I could do is cosine negative 1, divide these. And then I could get angle C and what it equals, 107.3. So if you'd rather memorize this to find like cosine C, you could do that. However, whatever way you're going to be practicing, that's what I recommend you do. You know, you can go back here and just plug them all in like. So when you did number 5, the work, so everyone going to be all of the work. And let me go ahead, piece of paper so you don't, or you can just plug it in like I did and find what you needed. Actually, that wasn't number 4, sorry. I needed to look for the one where it was side, side, side. So that would have been number 5. Sorry. So notice how, actually I showed you that in here. So here, I actually just plugged it into this, which is what I just showed you how to do, where it was written. On number 5, notice this has meters, this has meters, this has centimeters. You can just make them all meters. That was just a typo. So you didn't need to do any conversions there. So on the quiz, there's 6 questions. They're all multiple choice. They're all going to be given to you in decimal degrees, so just in degrees. You will not have to convert any minutes like you've been doing in the homework. So 6 questions. You must show your work. No work, no credit. You're going to be submitting your work to a different assignment. You can have the formulas written down. Make sure your calculator is in degrees. So you'll be taking this quiz on Wednesday, a week from today. I won't see you again before Wednesday. So if you're going back through and doing additional practice problems and you get stuck on something, send me an email and I'll answer any questions you have. If you want to go back and do any of the evens and you need answers for those, send me an email and I can send you a picture of the teacher's edition. Anybody need to see anything walked through or explained? And get to where I worked out number 1. So in order to get credit for the question, you need to have all of this work. You need to show me the proportion of, and this was actually, the first one was actually the ambiguous case. So notice what I did here was I first solved and I found the angle across from the side that was given to me, and then using law of sines, and then you have a choice. You can either go ahead and finish up the problem and find the remaining side and the remaining angle, and then go back and do the check for the second triangle. But my advice to you is draw yourself a picture, label your angles, label your sides, and figure out which one of the scenarios you're dealing with. And again, the only time you need to do the check is when you have, and notice on this one, I was given an angle, a side, and a side. And as I go around my triangle, notice it spelled out ASS. Now let's say you went this way, side to the angle. Either way, this is going to produce the ambiguous case.
So for the formula to find the second triangle, it's 180 minus b plus a, and then you subtract that from 180.
So you're going to, once you find the first angle, you're going to take that angle, subtract it from 180. Okay, the number you get when you subtract it from 180, this could potentially be an angle in your second triangle. But in order to figure out if it's possible, you have to take that number and add it to the number that was given to you originally, which was the 29.72. If this number goes over 180, you stop, because you know there can't be a second triangle. Okay, if it stays under 180, then you know you're just going to take that number, subtract that number from 180, and then that gives you the third angle in that second triangle.
Miss Corey?
Yes.
My iPad Canvas isn't working, so I'm going to restart it.
Okay.
So it'll probably just leave the chat for a little bit, or the Zoom.
Okay. Everybody good so far? So that's how you're going to find out. Now, when you go to find your second triangle, remember you were given 2 sides and an angle originally. those two sides and that original angle stay the same in the second triangle. What's going to change is the next two angles that you're finding by subtracting them from 180. And then once you find that other angle, the new angle, so notice here, I needed to find angle B, angle C, and side length C. So you're finding the same missing pieces for both triangles. The original two sides and angle are going to be the same for both triangles. But what changes is that third side, and then you get two different angle measures. So again, when you're taking the quiz, you need to show all of this. Probably what you might want to do is how you could manipulate that. Let me go back into the original. So I actually rearranged it. Does that make sense? Now, if you didn't want to do what I did, then what you would have done is c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times cosine c. And then you would have plugged in the numbers. So c was 68. You would have done 68 squared equals 38 squared plus 57 squared minus 2 times 38 times 57 times cosine c. Now, the biggest mistake that I see students make is they square this, and do these three, and they think they can simplify all this. If you do that, you're going to get it wrong. What you need to do if you're going to work with it like this is move this over. You could square it ahead of time, and you get 68 squared minus 38 squared equals 57 squared minus 2 times 38 times 57 times cosine c. Now I'm going to move the 57 squared, and I get 68 squared minus 38 squared minus 57 squared equals this. And now I need to multiply these three and then divide both sides by that. And I can get my calculator. If you want to do this step by step and write down what you're dividing by, you can do that. But then that would cancel. And then once you do this part, square this, subtract these two, and then divide. That'll give you what you need to do for the inverse. Also, one other thing, there was a typo on the units on one of the questions.